So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our morning Dharma reflections. We'll begin with the reflections on universal well-being. May I abiding well-being in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abiding well-being in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action, and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. Let's continue to read Ajahn Mun's biography. We've been following the section on the very end of Ajahn Mun's life, before he got sick and entered nirvana, or when he got sick and entered nirvana. So I'll continue reading here. Despite the physical difficulties he suffered as a result of the degenerative disease, he insisted on making the effort to walk to the village for alms round, and continued eating only one meal a day from his alms bowl as he always had. He did not simply abandon these practices. Eventually, when he felt that he could no longer walk the entire distance, he made an effort to walk at least halfway through the village before returning to the monastery. Seeing that so much walking caused him great difficulty, lay supporters and senior monks conferred and decided to invite him to walk only as far as the monastery gate, where offerings of food would be placed in his bowl. Had they requested him to abstain altogether from going on alms round, he would surely have demurred. So long as he was physically able, he felt obliged to continue. So everyone had to respect his wishes. They wanted to avoid doing anything that might conflict with his resolute temperament. He continued walking to the front gate for alms until he became too weak to make it there and back. At that point, he began walking only as far as a refectory to collect alms. Only when he could no longer walk at all did he stop going for alms. Even then, he continued to eat just one meal a day, which he took in his alms bowl. The rest of us had to respect his wishes each time. We were all amazed at the endurance of this noble sage who, refusing to forsake his fighting spirit, conceded nothing to the kleshas. As for the rest of us, we would probably be so dispirited at the very first sign of sickness that someone would have to carry us to the refectory to eat. It is truly disgraceful. The kleshas always laughing at us as we lie hopelessly on their chopping block, waiting for them to shred us to pieces with like so much raw meat. That's Ajahn Mahaboowa's commentary, clearly. What a pathetic sight. Here we are, full-fledged human beings, willingly putting ourselves at the mercy of the kleshas. Those are the afflictions. All of us who carry this shame on our conscience should stop and reflect on Ajahn Mun's mode of practice. We can then adopt it to safeguard us in our struggle with these defilements. In that way, we will always remain faithful to our Buddhist principles, instead of just being kleshas whipping boys. Let me just pause there for a moment. I think we see this example also in Real Master Empty Cloud, where he had the famous saying, one day no work, one day no food. And he would work even in the fields, I think well over 100 years old. And when he was in the monastery, when he first arrived, there was only a cowshed. This is True Suchness Monastery. There was only a cowshed when he arrived. The monastery was already completely, you could say, destroyed. And so he went there, and he stayed in the cowshed. And because of his virtue, monks gathered, and lay people came and supported, and they rebuilt the monastery. So it became a thriving monastery. And when he was invited to stay in much nicer quarters, he said, no, I'm just going to stay in the cowshed. Right? So this very kind of ascetic, disciplined, resolved approach to life. Very, very simple. Not looking for comfort. And we could think, oh gosh, this is really kind of hurting yourself, right? Being not going to kind of get more comfortable. But I think when you come to the monastery and you practice, we realize that actually the ascetic practices aren't meant to make life miserable. They're there to actually make life simple. And not only to make life simple, they also help us find a deeper place of freedom that's not based on the senses. Usually we're trying to get our senses comfortable, but through the ascetic practices we realize that actually the most comfortable place is the mind and heart at ease, unmoved by external senses. The other thing I thought of commenting on is the Alms Round. When I was actually in Thailand for a little bit, I had the opportunity to stay at Wat Pah Nanachat, the international monastery of Ajahn Chah's tradition. I also visited Wat Pah Pong, Ajahn Chah's main monastery, but not overnight. In Wat Pah Nanachat, I had the opportunity to go on Alms Round. And so what happens is you go off into the village nearby, or the town nearby, and you walk around, and you just follow the monks. And what's really amazing in Thai society is that every morning, if you can just imagine, families line up on the street every morning. So I'm amazed people don't sleep in. I know this whole culture, people don't sleep in. They all get up early and they have a bowl of food. And the monks walk through and they offer food to the monks as they walk by. Rice, vegetables, sometimes probably a little bit of meat, fish kind of items as well, because they're not vegetarian. And they offer it into the bowls of the monks, and the monks walk through, and the lay people stand behind, and they pass the extra food into the bowls that the lay people are carrying, so that the lay people can continue offering food. And so we walk through the town. Each monk goes on their own prescribed path, and then you come back to the main monastery, and there they actually put all the food in a pile, and then they separate it out, and then kind of buffet style, the monks go through and have their meal. But Ajahn Mun had a more rigorous practice. Not only did he go on alms round even when sick, but he only ate what was given to him in his bowl. That's not easy. I'm sure the three men here can attest to. I know for myself. Can you imagine you have to go for food and you have no choice? Whatever people put in that bowl is what you eat. Where you're like, do I want rice, or maybe some noodles, or maybe some bread, some vegetables, maybe I'll put some hot sauce on it, or maybe I should put some soy sauce, but got this condiment over here, maybe some cookies over there. A lot of false thinking. How do I, get just what I want in terms of food. I'm simple, but the false thinking mind still takes over. But this practice of eating only what's in our alms bowl, or what's offered in the alms bowl, is to basically give that false thinking mind a break. To say, I'm just going to eat whatever is offered. Keep it simple. And so that's what he does, even till the end of his life. So it's not a simple practice, but I think Ajahn Mun just shows this kind of awe-inspiring example of how to cultivate, how to live the monastic life. So it's a bit of a challenge for sure for us as kind of cultivators just starting out, maybe it's a little beginners, trying to discipline our mind. Even one meal a day is a kind of affliction in our minds, kind of, not say affliction in our mind, but afflictions arise in our mind, worried about this and that. And we do have aspirations in the future to go into Alms Round. I think having Ajahn Mun as a role model is actually quite inspiring. To say even to the end of his life, he didn't give this up. And even to the end of his life, he still ate only what's in his bowl and only what's offered. And so I think it's a valuable lesson for us, because clearly food is something that is oftentimes a place of proliferation of our afflictions. So maybe I was going to read more, but I ended up reflecting on the alms round and food. So maybe today people can actually take food as a practice. I can maybe try it for myself. And it's not to say that we try to be miserable by eating food that we're not choosing and liking and having preferences for. But in fact, you could say the mind that's not choosing, not seeking, actually makes the food far more flavorful, far more sustaining, far more wonderful. I can tell one story and then finish. I think Venerable Ananda asked the Buddha about alms food one time. And the Buddha said, do you want to taste the alms food that I taste? And the Venerable Ananda, of course, curious, yes, I do. So the Buddha somehow, passed him the state that the Buddha had. When Venerable Ananda tasted the food, he's like, wow, this food's amazing. He says, yeah, Venerable, or Ananda, this is the food that the Tathagata eats. So it's not that the food becomes flavorless, it's that we no longer seek flavor, and so the food becomes truly wonderful. Okay, so that's your 3 steps, 1 bow, and then we can dedicate merit at the end. However, we might end the 3 steps, 1 bow early, because we also have Dharma Master Hung Lai here at the monastery. So when he comes down, we're going to pay our respects. So we'll finish the bowing when he comes down. Oh, I think he might be coming down now.